In today's video we are using a tiny but powerful ESP32-C3 board to control individually addressable LEDs. There is just one problem. The ESP outputs 3.3 volts, but our LED strip needs 5 volts. How do we fix it? With this little chip. Stick around until the end to see me design a universal PCB for all your LED projects. Don't miss it. For most of my recent videos I've been using ESP boards, mainly because of the resources they offer and the built-in Wi-Fi support. One type of project I have not tested with those microcontrollers is using individually addressable LEDs. WS2812 strips require 5 volts logic, while those microcontrollers provide only 3 volts. I've made a video before about level shifters, like this one, where I successfully translated 3.3 volt logic into 5 volts. So it didn't really seem like a challenge, but then I realized that the level shifters I used before, the MOSFET-based ones, aren't fast enough for WS2812 data. They might work, but they might also produce occasional glitches, which is something that you really don't want. So I started investigating and I found this chip. It's a small device that takes a weak or noisy digital signal and outputs a clean, strong 5 volt version of the same signal. It doesn't change the data, it just makes it clearer and at the right voltage. It accepts 3.3 volts high input and outputs a proper 5 volt signal. So it works great as a level shifter. And most importantly, it's fast. It reacts in nanoseconds, which is more than enough for LED data. Let's look at the chip pinout. It has 14 pins, 2 of them are 5 volt and ground, and the rest are grouped into 4 channels. Each channel uses 3 pins. One is the enable pin, and the other 2 are input and output. Each channel enable pin is active low, which means you must connect it to ground to turn that channel on. For each channel, you have an input pin, where you send your weak or 3.3 volt signal, and the output pin, where you get a boosted, clean 5 volt signal with sharp edges, perfect for controlling LED strips. If you want to control a single LED strip or LED matrix, we only need one channel. So how do we configure the chip to have one active channel and all the rest disabled? We pull the enable pin of the first channel low to activate it. Then we pull the enable pins of the other 3 channels high, which disables them completely. Their inputs are ignored and they won't produce any output. Next, we connect our LED control signal to the input of the first channel. On the output, we receive the same signal, but boosted to a clean 5 volt level. That output can go directly to the signal pin of the LED strip. Let's build the circuit to control the LED strip using a tiny ESP32-C3 microcontroller. I am only going to light a handful of LEDs at a time, so I will power the strip from a 5 volt 2 amp power adapter. If you plan to light more LEDs, consider a stronger power supply using the rule of 60 milliamps per LED when it's fully white at full brightness. So first we power the microcontroller, then the lever shifter chip and the LED strip. The important thing is, all grounds must be connected together. Then we pull the enable pin of the first channel low to activate it, and we deactivate the remaining 3 channels by pulling their enable pins high. To prevent any floating inputs on the inactive channels, I will set their input pins to low and leave their outputs unconnected. All that's left is to connect the input of the first channel to GPIO pin 3 on the microcontroller and connect the output of the first channel to the data pin of the LED strip. We'll add a 330 ohm resistor in the data line and 1000 microfarad capacitor across the positive and negative terminals of the LED strip. We also add a 100 nanofarad capacitor between 5 volt and ground pins of the level shifter chip. Here's this circuit built on the breadboard. Let's highlight the most important connections. We are enabling the first channel, sending the LED control signal from GPIO pin of microcontroller into the channel input, and then routing the channel output to the data in pin of the LED strip or matrix. The ultimate goal here would be to transition from this breadboard prototype into the custom PCB. And thanks to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay, this is made possible. PCBWay is your premier choice for PCB manufacturing and assembly. In their website, you can effortlessly upload Gerber files created by Fritzing. Your design is then picked up, thoroughly checked, and sent for manufacturing. After the PCB is produced, all connections are meticulously reviewed. Once the quality checks are passed, your order is hermetically sealed, packaged, and dispatched to you. So if you want to turn your project prototypes into professionally made PCBs, click on the link above and get started. We'll power the microcontroller through the USB port, but we'll use an external power supply for the LED matrix and lever shifter chip. To test this setup, I'm using one of the example sketches that come with the FastLED library. The color palette sketch would be perfect. There is just one small change we need to make. Set the LED variable to GPIO3. Before uploading, we need to make sure the correct board and port are selected. And everything looks okay. ESP32-C3 and port 6. Let's upload the sketch. Almost done. And it works. The animation looks great, and it's even better with the diffusion panel. This setup can be used for almost any WS2812 projects. Let's do a quick swap and replace the 8x8 matrix with a larger one. You could also connect a regular LED strip the same way. Just make sure VCC and ground go to external power supply and the data in pin connects to the first channel input. The new matrix is connected. I have loaded a different sketch, and once I power it, it works perfectly. From here I want to design a custom PCB based on this idea. Something that can drive addressable LEDs across different projects. I plan to include an I²C connector for the RTC module and more flexible connection options to make the board truly universal. So now we need to go into Fritzing and create a custom PCB that reflects all the connections of this prototype. And here it is. Let's do a quick review. If you are not familiar with this tool, please refer to my tutorial on the subject. Here is the power supply. Here is the level shifter. The microcontroller will plug in here. And this is where we will connect WS2812 LEDs. Let's see if the first channel is enabled. It is set to low, so that's fine. We can also see that all grounds of all components are connected together. Now the channel input goes to the microcontroller's GPIO3 and the output goes through resistor to the data in pin of the LED strip. You may notice that PCB area is not fully utilized. Why is this section empty? That's because I want to make this board universal, so this is where I will place a few additional connectors that can be useful when working on LED projects. I want to add an option to connect a compact DS3231 RTC module and also leave room for another I²C device like an OLED display. I would also like to include a photoresistor so that the LED brightness can be adjusted automatically based on ambient light. Here is our connection diagram. Let's see how the new components fit in. We will connect the RTC and OLED modules. First, we need to create an I²C bus by using GPIO pins 8 and 9. Next, connect 3.3 volts and ground to power both modules. Then connect GPIO 8 to SDA pins of both modules and then GPIO 9 to SCL pins. For the photoresistor LDR, connect one side to ground and the other side through 10K resistor to the 3.3 volt pin. Capture the signal between the LDR and the resistor and connect it to GPIO pin 1. Before I add those components to the PCB design, I need to check if these components work as expected. I don't want to design a PCB on it to discover later that something doesn't work. So here is the breadboard prototype. We use the breadboard rails. On one side we distribute 3 volts and ground, and on the other side we distribute GPIO pins 8 and 9. The two pins that are standard for I²C communication, effectively creating an I²C bus, with 8 being the data pin and 9 being the clock pin. We can see the OLED display and RTC modules connected to the bus. I also created a voltage divider using a photoresistor And I am reading that input on digital pin 1. I have an LED connected to GPIO pin 3, so we will try to control the brightness of that LED using readings from the photoresistor. I will test the OLED display and RTC first. You can find the code for the setup in the description below. As you can see, the setup works. The time is displayed on OLED display, so both I²C components are functioning correctly. What I don't like is the blue onboard LED constantly blinking. It's tied to GPIO 8 and it flashes every time the I²C bus is active. Super distracting and completely unnecessary. Let's reassign I²C pins. Let's replug the jumper wires, SDA to pin 5 and SCL to pin 4. After powering the setup back on, the time disappeared from the display. No surprise, the code was still referencing the old I²C pins. Once I updated the code, defined the new SDA and SCL pins, and call wire begin with those pins in setup, everything sprang back to life. And the blue LED no longer blinks. Now let's bring the LDR into the loop. The input on GPIO 1 turned out to be very unstable. So getting smooth brightness transitions would have taken a lot of manual config. And honestly, why spend hours on that when ChatGPT can help? So I asked ChatGPT to expand the code, read values from the LDR, display the raw reading right below the time, map the full range of light levels I measured from complete darkness to bright light, and use that to drive a percentage-based brightness level for the LED with analog write. And immediately ChatGPT pointed something out. GPIO 1 doesn't even support analog input. I missed it. It suggested using GPIO 2 instead, which was perfect. So I swapped the wire, uploaded the generated code, and when I saw the result, I nearly fell off my chair. Not only did it work, but it displayed the raw LDR value, the percentage-based brightness level, and even a small brightness bar to visualize it, all cleanly integrated with the time display. If I had to write this manually, it would have taken hours. Amazing and a bit terrifying as well. I will paste the link to this sketch as well. This testing was crucial. We found a few problems that would have never shown up if we would only look at the diagram. Let's update the schematics to match the final setup. The I²C lines are now moved to GPIO 4 for SCL and GPIO 5 for SDA. The LDR is connected to GPIO 2. Next, I will open the PCB design in Fritzing and add the new components. Here you can see the RTC module with its SCL and SDA lines correctly mapped to pins 4 and 5, and the LDR connected to GPIO 2 exactly like in the schematic. And since GPIO 8 is now freed up after relocating the I²C bus, I will expose it as an extra available pin for future expansion. I think the design is ready. The important thing now is to run the design rule check to make sure that no traces are overlapping. If everything is fine, then we are good to go. Now let's export the design in Gerber format. This export will produce a bunch of files which need to be zipped. With that zip file, we can go to the PCBWay's website. Select the option to order a standard PCB. You will see an option to upload the zip file we just created. As you can see, the website automatically recognizes the size of our design. We can also change the PCB color. I quite like yellow option. On the right side of the screen, you will see the cost calculation. Choose the shipping method available for your country. I always go for the cheapest one, since I'm not too concerned about how long the shipment takes. Oh, and you can change the quantity from 5 to 10 because the price is the same. There's only a slight increase in shipping cost. Add it to the cart, make the payment, and that's it. So the order is placed. It will take about a week for it to arrive. So you and me will have to wait. So in the meantime, what you can do is you can subscribe to my channel and ring the bell not to miss the second part of this video. Also like and share this video and check out other ways you can support this channel. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!